Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 at 6:53 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We have a full moon at 24 degrees of Leo. Anybody else been feeling the curveballs this week? Definitely the kind of energy that keeps you on your toes. And I have noticed it is best to flow with the energy rather than resist the upgrades of the energy that's bringing to our schedules, to our events, whatever it may be. Aquarius season is here to bring upgrades. So following the flow rather than resisting it has been extremely helpful. And with every full moon, we've got Sun opposite the moon. Also, this one has Uranus right in between the two, creating a T-square. And we're going to talk about this fixed T-square in a little bit. Where I want to start, though, is talking about Mars retrograde in Cancer trining Saturn in Pisces. And essentially what this is doing is encouraging us to get real, Saturn, and facing the deeper truth around where our motivation comes from. Motivation that drives action. Action is Mars all the way. And acknowledging the deeper root system beneath these actions, these motivations, which essentially lies within the subconscious level of our values, and understanding why these values are important to us. Within that why, it's really cool because we're able to understand, one, where we have deeper work to do, and then our values in and of itself, they help us evaluate how we spend our time and the quality of our time spent. So imagine this. I just want you to hear this one value for freedom, but two very different reasons of why I might value freedom. One being, I value freedom because I really love the element of space and opportunities and empowering experiences, versus I value freedom because I don't want to be trapped. Do you hear the difference in those two whys of the same value? So in one of those whys, I have a move towards energy, right? I'm moving towards space. I'm moving towards opportunities. And the other example of not wanting to be trapped, I'm pushing it away. It's a move away. The thing is we can't actually avoid coming into contact with that which we are trying to push away, because in doing so you have to come into contact with it, even if it's in the mind, even if it's energetic. So it's about using that deeper level why to find the moveaways so that we can do the work and figure out what the heck it is we're moving towards, right? Taking responsibility for the baggage that exists within the level of our values. I mean, think about this. If you opened up your fridge today and something smelled a little weird, you would take it out, right? So if you're going to do that in your fridge and clean out what doesn't serve the fridge, you're going to do it for yourself, I hope. And remember here, Aquarius season is all about upgrades. It's about frequency. At the level of our consciousness and even emotions, some of that which creates this overall frequency that is ours exists of our beliefs, our thoughts, our values, our memories, and even our feelings. They're kind of each of those things. Imagine pieces to an orchestra, right? Different instruments of an orchestra that all come together, even the food we eat, to create this overall composition that is that overall frequency that we put out. Now, if something inside of us, let's say one of those memories, isn't resonating with the core truth of who we are, we need to address that, and so that we can come into more of alignment with our truth. And it's not the adjustments, there's nothing wrong with them, right? They're not necessarily foreign to us either. It's actually in the discomfort and the misalignment that comes from the fact that we have left part of ourselves behind somewhere along our timeline when we experienced unresolved conflict or some level of difficulty that we didn't have the capacity to cope with at that given time, usually in childhood. And it's a beautiful way of making sure that we don't forget these parts of us that maybe we did forget or we left behind. And what happens is with the frequency of those things, like frequencies attract like. So when we hold that frequency inside of us, let's say of this memory, right, or a limiting belief or negative emotion, we will attract experiences and relationships and so on that resonate with that memory or that limiting belief or that uncomfortable emotion, not to torture us by any means, but to remind us to get the fuck back there and help that part of ourselves, to bring that part back home, to reclaim that part. When we reclaim that, it's like reclamation of power. It's rediscovering our truth. And it's finding out what never resonated in the first place. What can we just let go of once we get the lesson from going back there? So it's like a skipping CD that shows us these patterns in life, shows up as patterns in life where we need to go back and like turn the CD off, right? That's annoying. And maybe sometimes even if it's not skipping, there's some better music that we'd like to have playing there. So it's important to go into the level of our programming and do this level of work. And on that note, let's get into more of the juicy details of this fixed T-square. We've got, first of all, Sun in Aquarius, opposite the full moon in Leo, with Uranus 90 degrees between the two of them, creating that tension triangle. So there's a release with tension triangles if we choose to do the work. Uranus in Taurus, it's looking to liberate our unique nature and our radical authenticity. And it's like really helping us to dive into what we truly value in life, right? Taurus is our individuality, it's our finances, it's resources, it's simplicity, though. It's also values. And it gives us this deeper level look into our resources and what we're going to need or what we might have that contributes to stability and self-sufficiency. We've also got Sun in Aquarius, who feels totally different. It doesn't fit in. It feels just super weird, and it's almost like it's futuristic genius that feels like it came in at the wrong time period. Then we've got the full moon in Leo that actually just wants to fit in. It wants to find its tribe, and it rules the inner child, this childlike innocence and creativity, and even potentially those memories, right? And the drama that our inner child went through at some point. And here's the thing. Sure, those memories may have like quote unquote passed at some point of this third dimension linear timescape reality. But when we go beyond our conscious awareness in this third dimension, we notice all time is happening at once. Okay? So using techniques that help you get into the level of the subconscious mind, beyond that linear scope of time, we can absolutely time travel, like through the portal of the present moment. Yes, I said time travel. The genius of Aquarius and the creative and imaginative elements of Leo want to remind you it is absolutely possible. So we can actually go back in time and create resolve for those lost aspects of ourselves and upgrade our timeline. When we do so, imagine going along your timeline and taking this upgrade and dropping it in like a body of water. There's a ripple effect that happens all the way to now and into your past and into your future. This is like epic energy and shadow work that you can actually go in and have the power to create resolve that you never had. So then we've got the release of all this tension, like a bow and arrow. It pulls back and it releases into the sign of Scorpio, which we've already kind of started to dive into. It's going into kind of the discomfort of the stories that we are living. And with Scorpio, everybody that has strong Scorpio in their chart is going to value pain on some level. And here's the reason, because without knowing pain, they cannot know pleasure. It's one and the same hoop. So it's about getting curious, what do you need to face and work on deep within you that is holding you back or keeping parts of you repressed? Because Leo really wants the fullness of like free expression, right? It wants the dramatic full expression. And where are you creating that self-inflicted prison and choosing? Choosing is a key word here, to stay inside. At worst, Aquarius feels so different it ends up being disconnected and isolates itself, sort of perpetuating that inner wound even more. And every sign can end up doing this, but this is a story of the Aquarius Leo wound. And Scorpio here, it rules death of patterns. And Aquarius does not do, Aquarius and Leo are like real freedom fighters. They don't do patterns well. You put Aquarius in a box, it's going to break it. Maybe. If you're lucky, it'll just break it. So it's really about having the courage of Leo, really embodying that courage of Leo to face the things that keep you trapped, those limiting beliefs, those negative emotions, those core root memories, and create some resolve there to get out of there and set yourself free. It's the snake that sheds its skin, that it's outgrown, and it sends us into the rebirth portal, that liberation that Aquarius really craves. This is when pain becomes pleasure. It's like you've moved into a different phase of the hoop. It reminds me of my mantra, I'd rather look crazy than feel crazy. And when I started doing this inner work, when I started practicing Qigong as in my early 20s in parks, and I could notice people looking at me like, what the heck is she doing? Well, I would rather look crazy than feel crazy. And what I was doing is deeper work on myself. And it's also encompasses the idea of suspending yourself in the temporary discomfort and being curious about these quote unquote triggers, right? And figuring out where can I do the work, where can I create resolve, what needs need to be met so I can diffuse this trigger and maybe even get the lesson that just allows that trigger or that memory to dissolve. And I want to wrap this up by acknowledging the theme of love that Leo brings to the table. Leo loves the love story. It rules the ego, and on a higher level, it rules the heart and that beautiful childlike innocence that we have within us all. It's that willingness, right, that to be totally loved that is a very courageous pursuit, I think. It requires us to bring all of ourselves into connection, really opening our heart over and over, even when it's kind of been broken, you know? Are you embodying grace during that, or do you harden? Do you flow like water into those new connections that might be safer and more authentically aligned for you to be in full expression, to be completely authentic and brave enough to bring all of those parts, right? Even those parts that we're a little afraid that we're going to be rejected because they're weird. Even those parts that have the story of being too much. And let's talk about too much for a minute, because too much is essentially means to me that you are a mirror for others to remember parts of themselves that were quote unquote too much. This is something that's just been passed on. It's not necessarily true. What it tells me is you are a reminder for people who have forgotten the parts of themselves that were vibrant, that were very Leo and very authentic to their truth, even that Aquarius nature, that weirdness. And you're reminding that person of part of themselves that they have repressed or denied or disowned or labeled not okay, and almost becoming the trigger for them, which is beautiful, because in doing so, you're becoming what reminds them to go back into their timeline and go reclaim those lost aspects of self. So, I mean, in and of that self, you can, in and of itself, you can notice that the lesson within that, the realization from a different perspective, kind of transforms the pain of being too much into like, oh, cool, I'm in an excited way triggering this person to go find part of themselves and become more whole. That's beautiful. And the thing with Leo is we can't fully be loved until we bring our complete self into connection. If you keep parts of yourself hidden out of fear that you're going to be rejected or judged, you're going to end up feeling unfulfilled in your relationship. And maybe even a sense of loneliness. Have you ever felt lonely even in connection with another person? It's because the wholeness of who you are isn't being brought into that connection, and therefore doesn't have a chance to actually be loved and connected with and be seen. But you've got to own that. Like, this is the most empowering thing you can do, is own that you were the one that kept them trapped. If you were the one that did it, then you can go back and unlock them, right? Bring them back home. It's not anybody's responsibility but yours to bring those aspects of you home. to set them free, to let them fly high, shine bright, and embody the courage of Leo. And see who sticks around, really. Like, this wild and raw presence. See who sticks around for that when you shine your light as bright as it truly is. When you open your heart over and over and over with that bravery, and stay grounded in love. Remembering at the core of your truth is essentially the fact that you are love. And that's what I want to leave you with as we build up to a couple days from now. It's Valentine's Day, or a couple days from this full moon. And yeah, happy full moon in Leo. Happy Valentine's Day, and so much love.